So my name is Avery Oden. Thanks everybody for coming out, first of all, and thanks to Big Wing for having me. My name is Avery Oden. I'm a social media strategist at an advertising agency just down the street from here called Staple Gun. And I'm here today to talk about Rib Crib, one of our bigger clients, and specifically the social media component of it. The creative side, the metrics side, the analytics, sort of how those things mesh and how they play off each other, and hopefully learn something as I go through it. So Rib Crib came to us, originally a pretty dusty old brand. They were running a lot of ads that were in black and white in newspapers and magazines. And I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of barbecue in black and white, but it looks a lot less like dinner and more like a crime scene. So they really needed a fresh face, something to really bring them up to date, bring them into the 21st century, present their brand in a new way, and we gave them the logo and the tagline that I hope that you're familiar with today. If you are, it means we did our job. Keep it saucy. And of course, anytime you give anytime you rebrand a company, you need a new media strategy that accompanies it. You need a new way to distribute that message, get it in front of people. And seeing as how they're trying to become more contemporary, digital was a main focus for us. And of course, social media is going to be a big component of any digital strategy. So anytime we embark on a new media strategy, we have to ask ourselves a very fundamental question. What are we trying to accomplish? And in this case, what are we trying to accomplish specifically on social? The answers are pretty obvious. I'm sure you can already guess them. But we want to reach a new generation of customers. We want younger demographics. We want greater visibility, not just to these younger demographics, this new generation of customers, but also to our existing customers. We want to stay in front of them, stay top of mind at all times. We want an enhanced brand perception, and I'll get more on that later. And we want a competitive edge. The food and beverage industry, the restaurant industry is super cutthroat. It's very competitive, as you may know. So it's important to us that we not only meet expectations, but we really set the standard for them. So with those goals in mind, we revisited the idea of keep it saucy. We asked ourselves, what does this look like as a social media content strategy? What's our voice, what's our tone, our look, our feel? What are the things that we're going to say to achieve these goals? And immediately a few things came to mind. And I'll show you some examples of the creative along with these to sort of illustrate what I'm talking about. We knew we wanted attitude. Attitude is really important for us. I hope this is clear, if you can see these, but barbecue is a really visceral experience. It's you really get hands-on, and you get kind of medieval on it, and it's sloppy and it's messy, and so we wanted something that would reflect that attitude. You can see Carl's Jr. and Buffalo Wild Wings will take a similar approach. We wanted to be bold, we wanted to really come on strong and be sort of shameless in that way, and our hope is that this content would sort of be relatable to our fans. And that's a theme that I'm going to hit a lot throughout this thing. But we wanted to be really proud of the barbecue lifestyle. We also wanted humor. Humor is really important for Rib Crib. It really lends itself to this. Not every industry or any client is going to lend itself to humor. This isn't going to work for everybody, but it really worked for Rib Crib. It gave us an opportunity to entertain our fans even when they weren't hungry. And this was our first April Fool's post that we ever did. We've done them annually since then, but this was our first one. I still love it. And again, this is just a way to reach younger people, to appeal to a younger demographic. People just don't have any patience for ads that feel advertising. You have to, really what we are is we're content publishers, and we have to slide the brand in under the radar. We also need to be topical at all times. This really is pretty obvious with this idea of moving the brand into the 21st century and making them contemporary. You want to reference current things. Of course, this was from 2014. Some of this stuff is old, so don't hold me to it. And whether it's current events or just current trends, or this one's more recent. This one came out whenever the new Star Wars movie was released. So just some general takeaways. Some ways that I like to think about creative. That I think, and again, these are things that apply to Rib Crib. They may not apply to you or your brand. So just some takeaways that I think can apply to everybody. Explore your subject from your consumer's point of view. That's my weird way of saying, just listen to what people are saying and try and see your brand through their eyes. It may not be the way that you see it. We were seeing lots of tweets and messages about people using rib crib cups for beer pong. I didn't even really think of that, so we created these set of rules to reflect that. Obviously, 2 balls in 1 cup, your opponent has to drink 3 beers. I think we all know that. Also, be sure to, another way that we did this, I was seeing messages about people reheating their brisket, eating leftover barbecue in the middle of the night. And they would say, oh, the brisket dries out in the microwave or whatever. So we made this, put it in a steamer basket over boiling water that keeps it nice and moist. Or this one on the right is about menu hacks. People talking about putting onion rings on burgers or French fries on sandwiches or whatever. So again, this is just listening to what people are saying, seeing your brand through their eyes, and creating content that they can relate to. This one is, I didn't know this, but girls love barbecue almost more than men. I was seeing lots of messages about girls loving the idea of just dropping the girly bullshit for a second and just being really proud of getting into some barbecue and being shameless. This one may have accidentally turned out a little more sexual than I intended. But you get the idea. It's all about just listening to people, seeing your brand through their eyes. Another way to do this, sort of flip that idea on its head and explore your consumers from your subject's point of view. So I like to think of this as taking a look at the world around you, at current trends in society, what's happening, and just look at it through, in my case, a rib crib branded lens. So this was about the Netflix and chill, the rise of that. So, get it to go because we know you'd rather be watching Netflix. Or, the food porn era. Everybody's doing the food porn thing in restaurants where they take just these perfect photos and the natural light, and they get just the right angle. So it's just sort of poking fun at that. And this one I'm sure we can all relate to. Where families spend quality time. And again, this is looking at the world around you and sort of holding up a mirror to people and current trends, but just make it lightly reference your brand in that way. And this isn't about barbecue, really. This is about cell phones. This is about people. So that's the genesis of that idea. This one is obviously set up in the style of God and Adam, but it's about temptation. This went out on New Year's Day, and you can see he's got that salad in front of him. He's trying to stick to his New Year's resolutions, but he's just so desperately wanting that barbecue. So again, just looking at people around you, but brand it, rib crib in my instance here. Or explore your subject through storytelling. I know storytelling is a bit of it's a buzzword, but it really does work, I think. And this is an example of that for rib crib. These are, I like to think of them as single panel comics that we did for Instagram. And they sort of tell little stories. On the left here we have the case of the murdered okra, or on the right is some guys harvesting brisket. And really it's just a way to show, close-ups of food. It's an excuse to show close-ups of food, but make it compelling or interesting, and tell a fun story with it. And this one actually went on to win the Best of Interactive this year at the Addy Awards. It won gold in regionals, and now it's on its way to the National Addy Awards. Also, find ways to explore your subject through multiple formats. Don't just stick to images or text. Experiment with GIFs. This was done with a piece of software called Flixel, where you shoot a short little video. You can isolate an area that you want to move, and then that part will loop endlessly. And I like to think of them. You can't really see it. There's smoke swirling around in the background that you can't really see, but I like to think of them as still photos. They're just photos, but they're sort of alive in a way. Sort of Harry Potter-esque, anyway. Or just use text. Some of our most successful tweets have been text only. So don't ever underestimate the capability of simplicity, especially with Twitter. We also did a series of videos last year. This is an example of video that for RibFest, where we we had people sort of in their everyday lives doing a mundane task of one form or another, but they're just obsessed with this idea of barbecue. And it's like a song that gets stuck in your head. They just keep thinking over and over, like saucy, saucy. They're obsessed with it.
Saucy, saucy, saucy. Saucy. Saucy.
That volume bar is annoying. So anyway, this is not, again, it's not so much about barbecue. It's about creating a fun little piece of content that people are going to be willing to share and relate to on some way. That's actually our star of that video right here. So this was a series of 6 videos that we did. Here's another one. I'm not going to show all of them, of course.
Saucy, saucy, saucy. Saucy, saucy, saucy. 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 Saucy.
So these were designed for Facebook and YouTube, and they were designed to be fun, shareable pieces of content. The client loved these so much they actually got run on national TV, and also went on to win the Jeff Fontana Humor Award at this year's Addies, and gold at regionals, and are also on their way to nationals. But these are really easy. Like these don't take a lot of production value. These are just short little videos shot with a handheld DSLR, and we're just designed to be, you know, fun little things. And then, oh, by the way, Rib Crib. You know, you slide that name in under the radar. And finally, this is the boring part. You know, learn from your metrics, and you're going to hear this everywhere. Learn from what's worked in the past. Hone in on things that wind up being more successful, and try and follow that path. You know, always follow metrics, and that's where I get into metrics and targeting. Rib Crib is not an e-commerce company. We don't live and die by the click-through rate or the conversion rate. I really look at 3 main components in regards to metrics and targeting. I look at my audiences, I look at engagement, and I look at reach. And I'm really going to focus on Facebook right now for a lot of this stuff. And now, as you know, Instagram advertising has opened up, so this also applies to Instagram. A lot of this also applies to Twitter, though. So just starting at the top with audiences. I follow a guy named John Loomer, who's a Facebook advertised wizard. And he has a hierarchy of audiences that I've sort of taken and simplified a little bit. That really illustrates, I think, the power of Facebook, or now Instagram, targeting. So starting at the strongest and sort of working your way down to some of the looser, weaker options. So starting with retargeting, this is recapturing leads that you already have, people that have already expressed interest in one way or another in your brand. So maybe they visit a specific website or a specific page of your website, or they visit a specific web section, or just your website visitors in general. If you've ever looked at something on Amazon, and then you go to Facebook and you get hit with an ad for that specific thing that you looked at, that's what this is. It's a little creepy, I know, but it's really effective. So that could be a specific page of your site, a section, or just anybody that visits your website. Or you can use your email list. You know, if you have an e-blast or some sort of e-club of one form or another, you know, in MailChimp, you can upload these to Facebook and create what's called a custom audience of specific people, and all those email lists that you have will be cross-referenced with Facebook users, and you can target those people with specific ads. Or just good old-fashioned fans. You know, those are people that have sort of categorized themselves as being relevant to you and your brand, so don't ever ignore them. Followed by behaviors, and again, I'm starting at the strongest, working my way towards some of the weaker options, even though they're not weak at all. But behaviors, you know, these are based on actions that people take off-site, so not necessarily pages that they like or stuff that they engage with. It's a lot of, you know, what they do on Google or just off-site behavior. Friends of fans layering is an interesting idea. This is where, like, say that you own a company and you have a Facebook page, and then you're a fan of her business, and then you're a friend of hers. So what you can do is target her with ads, and it takes advantage of what's called social proof, where you'll see an ad that says, oh, hey, by the way, she likes it too. And you want to layer that because maybe her aunt that lives in Alaska has got nothing to do with your brand. So you want to layer that friends and fans targeting with some interests or behaviors or something else. So you're sure to hit relevant people. Lookalike audiences, this is Facebook specific. By the way, a lot of this stuff applies to Twitter as well. But lookalikes are Facebook specific. This is, say you only have a couple of hundred email lists or a couple of hundred website visitors. That's not really enough people to adequately run ads to. So Facebook will go in there and decide what those people have in common. And then they'll create a list of a few thousand people. It takes that few hundred contacts, leads that you have, and turns it into a few thousand. So it's big enough to run adequate ad campaign to. Followed by good old-fashioned demographics, age, gender, location, and then interests. Interests I put at the bottom because there's way stronger ways to reach relevant people. But say you don't have web visitors, you don't have email lists, you don't have fans, it's a brand new page, you don't have any information on behaviors, or you can't build lookalikes, then you can start with interests. And over time, you can move your way up the list to ensure that you're reaching really relevant people. And at the bottom, it's in red, you can't see it clearly, but it says boosting. Please don't boost posts. I really advise against it. I'm sure you've heard, oh, this post is doing well, let's put some money behind it, let's boost, let's get some engagement. But the fact is that people, in TV and radio and print and outdoor would kill to have the targeting of options that we have available to us on social media. So please do it with intent, and I encourage you to do it wisely and intelligently. So all that being said, how does RibCrib do it? Well, it really depends on content. Not everything's for everybody. Some of you probably didn't think that saucy spot was funny. And that's not really designed for you. So you want to be conscious of what content that you have and who should see it. So that's really going to be a variable thing. It depends on the goal. Who are you trying to reach or not reach? One of the interesting things that you can do with custom audiences, your retargeting website or emails, is you can include or exclude them. It may sound strange, the idea of excluding people, but for instance, I run an e-club campaign every month where I retarget website visitors, people that visited ribcrib.com, with ads that says, hey, join our e-club, you'll get a free appetizer. But I don't want to spend my ad dollars reaching people that have already joined. So I exclude my email lists because obviously they've already joined and it costs money to place ads to them, so let's not waste that money. Another example of this would be your page likes campaigns that you run to build audiences for your Facebook fan pages. Don't target people that have already liked it. And past successes. This is obviously going to inform all targeting that you've done. Just look at what's worked in the past. And this is going to be different from everybody, and that leads me to engagement. Look at rates and not numbers. Just like any sort of cost per click campaign, you want to look at a click-through rate, not the number of clicks that you've received necessarily. So for me, for RibCrib, that's going to be anywhere between 6 to 10% on both Facebook and Twitter. And if you run ad campaigns, you'll know that that's a pretty high number. But the reason that that's high is because we're a barbecue restaurant. We're not trying to sell auto loans, or we're not an education or a bank. People are more likely to engage with a restaurant if they see a tasty photo of barbecue or some goofy shit that you've seen before this. So our engagement rates are naturally going to be a little bit higher. But that's my baseline for success. It's also going to really depend on the marriage of content and audience. You want the right stuff reaching the right people. And if you do this correctly, you'll see a nice boost in reach. And just in any kind of marketing or advertising, there's two kinds of reach. There's earned and owned. Earned reach is going to be organic. That's your shares and your retweets. And that's free. And it's always good to have free reach. More is always better. More eyeballs for free is a great thing. And then there's owned, which is paid for. That's paid placement. And that's going to be a little bit more complicated. More is not always better, and cheaper is not always better. It may look appealing. We reached like a ton of people with this when we placed it as an ad, and you think, oh, well, that's great. But you always have to remember, more is not better and cheaper is not better. For instance, the page likes campaign that I run, it's really important to me that I recapture strong, relevant leads to build my page, for people to like my page. I want those people to be relevant to me. So I recapture website visitors for that. I filter them from website visitors into Facebook fans. That's a pretty small audience, and because it's a small audience, it's a really expensive audience, but it's really relevant to me, and it's worth it because you're able to drop those people into a bucket, and then they see your ads just from now on. So more is not always better, cheaper is not always better. You got to decide what's right for you. My CPM, which is cost per 1,000 impressions, will hang anywhere from $4 to $7 on a general basis. That's not my website retargeting audience, by the way. They're much more expensive than that. And it's really going to vary widely. It depends on the industry, the audience that you're trying to target, and what time of year it is. This is an interesting fact. You know, it's a bidding system. Social media ad placement is all bids. So during Christmas time, or time whenever retailers are really bidding high to place a lot of ads, it's going to get really expensive. So keep that in mind. It's going to fluctuate throughout the year and over time. And as more and more advertisers start to catch on to this stuff and how powerful it is, costs are going up just across the board year over year. So what's the relationship between these three factors? Good content with good targeting will get you good engagement. Good engagement gets you good earned reach, and that's always a positive thing. So this is the formula that you're after. There's no one formula that works for everybody. You really got to figure out how it works for you, but the first step is having the right tools to know how to execute it. So just some hard and fast campaign tips that apply to everybody. Add website pixels now, even if you don't need them, even if you're not running Facebook ads. Go ahead and throw these pixels on your website and start filtering these leads into a custom audience because you may need them in the future, and it takes time for that to grow. So go ahead and get that done now. You might be glad you did. Get a baseline for success. Start with your gut. Make some assumptions about what kind of people you think will like this. And then after you get that figured out, you can start whittling it down and really start doing manual bids and working that magic. Use exclusions. Like I was saying earlier, don't target e-club subscribers with an e-club ad or current fans with the page likes campaigns. So figure out who you want to reach as well as who you don't want to reach. Give it time. Don't expect to work magic in a day. An ad may take 3 days, it may take a week, it may work well for a month. So just figure out what the sweet spot is for you. Group and split test your ads whenever possible. It's not always an option, but if you have multiple ads that are similar, you can drop them into the same campaign. Upload different pieces of creative, different pieces of copy, and then Facebook or Twitter will automatically optimize for the most successful one, and then they'll deliver that one more, and you'll get more results for less money. Twitter's greedy. They will charge you for image expansions and profile clicks, whereas Facebook will only charge you for likes, shares, and comments as far as engagement. So Twitter's going to be more expensive. Facebook gives you more bang for your buck in general, is what I've learned. Monitor your frequency. You don't want to hammer people with ads. Frequency is the number of times any given person will see an ad throughout the duration of your campaign. So anytime you get above like 2 or 3, you might be doing more harm than good. You might be annoying people. So if you get above that, try and expand your audience or lower your budget. Find a way to just not irritate people with your ads. Place them intelligently. If you're going to run an ad on the sidebar, if you're going to run an ad on Instagram, if you're going to run an ad on mobile, size the creative appropriately for that. You want big legible text on sidebar ads because they're displayed small. That's the stuff on the desktop on the right side. If you're going to be running them on mobile, make sure it's legible on a mobile phone. Don't just shotgun the same piece of creative across all these placements. Refresh your email audiences. Unlike the website retargeting, email audiences need to be updated manually over time. So, as your list grows, whether that's daily, weekly, monthly, annually, be sure to manually upload those emails so you can always keep the audience fresh. And please don't boost your posts, for the love of God. So what does all this look like for Rib Crib? Here's what we learned. People prefer this authenticity. They prefer raw, real-looking images of barbecue, something that they might take themselves. They don't like this staged advertising agency type stuff, which is on the left. This is old. This is our 2016 campaign here. This got decent engagement. This stuff gets way better engagement rates. And this was done through a little bit of intuition and through some testing. It was done first as an experiment. We saw that it worked, and then it informed us of what our fans like to see. And the impact of that is huge. It informs not only our social media campaign, it taught us about our fans, about the fans of barbecue, about the fans of Rib Crib, and it informed our entire 2016 ad campaign on TV. So this is this year.
It takes time. It's a process. At Rib Crib, that process starts with passion. We take a premium cut of meat, then we slow smoke it up to 12 hours. It's about serving the best. You'll want to get here before it's gone. Rib Crib. Keep it saucy.
So I think that's a pretty substantial insight, and that's what social media can do. The results over the last 2 years of our time with Rib Crib, I think I'm personally very proud of. We took them over in 2013 at 18,000 Facebook fans and ended 2015 with 108,000. You can see our engagements here under the video views of this right column. 2014, 11,000 comments, 2015, 13,000. 142,000 likes in 2014, 247,000 in 2015, 7,000 shares, up to 16,000 shares the next year. And not only is growth good, I think of growth as a standard, but what's really important is when you're able to outperform yourself year over year. That means that you're listening, and that means that you're improving on your strategy over time, as long as you're able to just, outdo yourself. In 2014, we reached an average of 800,000 people a month. In 2015, we reached an average of 1.1 million. So again, it's really about outdoing yourself over time, because that means that you're honing in on what your fans like to see, and you're using a good strategy. Twitter's the same. We started the 2013 with 1,200 fans. At the end of 2015, we ended with almost 20,000, and you can see that spike year over year. 2014, 2015 in engagements, the same story. We outperformed ourselves, and all of them except for mentions, which drives me crazy. It took like a tiny little dip down, but you can't make people mention you. So, but anyway, we're really proud of these results year over year. This is a scary graph, and I'm not a real big graph guy, but we conducted some external research. We have a research department that was able to conduct research of 1,600 people. And this will show you that okay, first of all, these are sentiments of barbecue, friendly, clean, delicious, comfortable, fresh, a great restaurant, fun experience, authentic. And the very top line here, the audience segment that performed the best, of course, is Rib Crib loyal customers. These are people that go to Rib Crib on like a monthly basis at least. But this green line, just below that, all the way across the board, these are people that were exposed to us on social media. Below that are people that were exposed to us on TV. So you can see that social media outperformed all other advertising mediums in terms of how people perceive Rib Crib. And this is something that I'm just really proud of. So before I close, I'm about to wrap up, I just have something that I want to get off my chest about the nature of social media and the state of the industry today. I'm assuming by virtue of the fact that you're all here today that you probably touch social media or digital media in one way or another, and you're probably consuming podcasts and webinars and going to seminars and reading articles, from the best of the best, the voices of our industry. And you're trying to learn best practices and stay on top of an ever-evolving industry, which is super important. I do the same thing, and everybody needs to do that because it's always changing and it's very, very complicated. But I sometimes worry that because we get so much information, because we have so much analytic information available to us, that we can get distracted by it. And we forget the real essence of what we're supposed to be doing as marketers and advertisers, which is creating great stuff. Creating content that people are going to enjoy seeing, and creating something relatable to people, not just jamming some advertised crap down their throat, but really making something compelling, whether it's funny or whether it's emotive or otherwise personally relatable on some level. That's what our real job is. And numbers are really important. Analytics are important. That's why I spent time on it today. But numbers will never tell you to make a Nacho Man Randy Savage. Numbers will never tell you to make a Joe Frieden or a James Bean. That stuff has to come from inside you, and it's got to come from an inspired creative spirit that desires to create something interesting for people, provide value. And this idea of just social, like it's just social media, this drives me absolutely crazy. This is my biggest pet peeve in the world, is that for some reason, because it's Instagram or because it's Facebook, that it somehow makes it okay for subpar creative to live there. That, you know, you have assets from the TV campaign or something else, and so you just put it on social. Well, this is all custom social media work, and it's performed great. And not only has it performed great, it's taken Stablegun to the National Advertising Awards. So I really encourage everybody to remember that we have to be both a scientist and an artist. We have one of the hardest jobs in the world. We have to think analytically, and we also have to think creatively. And if you're not doing both in equal measure, then you're not doing your job right. And so many people focus on this left side because there's so much information available to us. And it's great, and it's important, but just don't ever get distracted that you also have to be an artist at the end of the day. So, so I'll close with this.
Do it! Just do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday, you said tomorrow. So just do it! Make your dreams come true! Just do it! Some people dream of success while you're going to wake up and work hard at it. Nothing is impossible. You just get to the point where anyone else will quit, and you're not going to stop there. No, what are you waiting for? Do it! Just do it! Yes, you can! Just do it! Stop giving up.
Thank you. So is it question time? Is that what happens? Yes?
Avery, fantastic work. So
Thank
every
you.
brand is different, and it's often hard to really tie, for example, your social results to ROI for the business. How do you all go about that for this particular brand and the work that you do here?
It's really hard if you're not a e-commerce company. That makes it super easy because you can track website conversions. That gives you clean answers. Our goal is to get butts and seats and to sell barbecue. So to answer your question, it is really hard. What we try and do is focus a lot on branding. We do external research to get sentiments, and that helps guide us. We can count in-store visits month over month and see how that influences it. But we really gauge our success based on engagements, because that means that we're relating to barbecue fans. Oh my gosh, you guys. That means we're relating to barbecue fans, and so that's the answer I would say, is we really look at engagements month over month. Yes?
Has any of this made you rethink Keep It Saucy? It seems like a gift that keeps giving, and you, through all of this great work, seem to are probably the person best informed to decide whether Keep It Saucy is the right branding move going forward.
I mean, that's a great question, because it seems like people really respond to the authenticity message. We also learned through our research that one of the biggest differentiators between potential customers and current customers is potential customers believe that chain barbecue restaurants are basically microwaves. And that's really not true. And I'm not just saying this because I represent Rib Crib right now, but they do use real hickory wood and smokers every day. So that's the direction of our 2016 campaign. That's the direction of our social media campaign in large part. But that's a question for the copywriters. I don't know. I certainly still enjoy it. So it's worth asking. Yeah.
How important is money? I know we get this question all the time. People ask, well, is this much enough to get this much success, or is this much enough? So how important is money in terms of building a brand and being social?
Depends on how big your audience is. I mean, the coffee shop down the street that's just a one-off coffee shop that exists right here may not need a lot of paid placement, but Rib Crib's a national brand, so it just, I don't know. It really depends on how many people you're trying to reach.
How big is the team you have working on those ads?
Our creative team most of those were done by one guy named Sean Ferguson, who's a creative director at Staple Gun, who's just a phenomenal artist. But we have like 5 art directors, we have a couple of creative directors, so it really just depends on the time of year, like how many other clients we have and how much stuff is going on. But at any given time, we have usually me plus 1 creative working on that stuff.
So then you just mentioned the copywriters, you don't actually make the copy on the ad, or?
I do all the social media. In social media, you have to do copywriting, you have to do creative direction, you have to do ad placement. So I do all the copywriting for Rib Crib Social, but we have copywriters that will do taglines or menus or website copy. Anybody else? Yeah.
You have a set of criteria that you use to come up with creative ideas, and do you frequently come up against customers who just don't buy into it, and then what do you do from there?
A set of criteria. Well, yeah, that's what, at the very beginning stages, our set of criteria was a new rebrand and trying to breathe life into that identity. But over time, the more we learn, my set of criteria was really based on what's worked well in the past. So you're always kind of flying by the seat of your pants a little bit. But yeah, my criteria would be what's worked well in the past and what we want the brand to look like, what our image is, and who we're trying to appeal to at that given time.
Have you been successful with all different types of markets, niches, and verticals, or have you just gone, sorry, this is not going to work for you for this particular industry or anything like that? Or have you made it work for every industry that you've worked with?
Oh, outside of Rib Crib?
Yeah, outside of Rib Crib. The kind of this sort of social.
Oh, no, this doesn't work for everybody. I mean, definitely not. There are certain elements in here that I tried to hammer in that I think do work for everybody, like reflecting your audience, identifying with people, reflecting the world around you, trying to stay topical. But a lot of this goofy stuff that I showed here wouldn't work for like a hospital. So that's, you got to really cater your approach depending on the industry of the client.
Can you talk about the -3% a little bit?
That's
why do you think that is now declining, and maybe some thoughts of what do you think might be able to turn that around?
Why that's declining? Well, first of all, that was a difference of like 3 minutes. I mean, that's the thing. I can't really say. It just whether people choose to mention you on Twitter or not is their own choice. Maybe we did some stuff in 2015 or 2014 that was especially mention worthy on Twitter. I mean, you just can't have all the answers to everything. But hopefully in 2016 that goes back up. That's my goal.
Maybe people are too busy eating.
That's it. Some people are way too busy. Their mouths are full. They can't tweet with barbecue sauce on their tongues.
So there's a lot of new platforms coming up. There's like Snapchat, Facebook Live. How often do you determine adopting a new platform or a new outlet for your social media?
Always. Snapchat is going to be really important coming up. I think we all know that. We haven't exactly devised, what's our Snapchat presence going to look like and how we're going to execute it. It's way more complicated, because it's got to be shot from right here, right now, and it only lives for 24 hours at most. But yeah, we're rolling out a campus ad next month for RibFest. We've already secured the Road Crib Snapchat name, which, by the way, do that now. Even if you're not going to use Snapchat immediately, go ahead and secure the name because you'll be really glad that you did. What was the other one you mentioned?
Facebook Live.
Oh, Facebook Live, yeah. Yeah, that's going to be really interesting. You know, they just rolled that capability out to be shot, you know, from cameras and not just from your phone. So, yeah, those are all turning over in our heads, and we're going to figure out ways to use them. But that's always really important to us. Like whenever Instagram advertising opened up, we jumped on that pretty much the day that it was available. So, yeah, we'll be doing cool stuff in the future. Just stay tuned.
Yeah. You mentioned frequency capping. So can you actually do that in Facebook? Because I've been looking for that feature, some way to limit how many impressions you make maybe on a user across a campaign.
Man, I have not found a way to like set a limit that caps it off. I think that's probably because Facebook wants as much money as possible. They're never going to restrict how many ads you can deliver. So at least in the meantime, you just got to look at it regularly. And if it starts to get above 2, that's my cutoff.
What are the most ribs you've eaten in one setting?
12. 12 probably.
Okay. Thank you, Avery. I told you guys he's really